I don't remember the second part of the second. Let's go. I'll just turn it on and off every so often, okay? Okay. So, page 150. So what we're learning here is teachings of Reb Shlomo Karlebach, and this particular chapter is about love and healing. And briefly, he speaks about love before creation and love after creation.
150 or
150, yeah. The love before creation and love after creation. And the difference being that love before creation is you're looking for someone to share your love. Love after creation is your love is aroused by something. Okay? So so then he connected that with healing, and he said that if you want to heal somebody, you basically have to. The healing comes from the love before creation. Love before creation has a certain infinite quality that love after creation doesn't have, right? And then he says that most of the people who are who are not so nice, or who are doing such not such nice things, basically the problem is that they haven't had a taste of the infinite. And then he spoke about when he spoke about the infinite, right? Thank you. When he spoke about the infinite, he spoke about what's real infinity. In other words, what's and real Ein Sof, real infinity is to be able to experience the infinite within the finite. Right?
I'm still not clear on the love before creation and the love after.
Well, the love after creation is that there's a reason for it. It's not altruistic, right? So that's one way of distinguishing, is that altruistic love is that you're loving because you're loving. You don't need any reward. You don't need any in other words, you don't need any. It's not self-centered. In other words, you love, right? It's a big question if people can achieve altruistic love or not. Apparently, somebody told me that most philosophers are of the opinion that you can't. That the human being is not capable of achieving altruistic love. And it seems that that's the difference between the Jewish neshama and the other neshamot is that Hashem does expect that of us, and that at the very least, even if we don't achieve it, at least to believe that it can be achieved. And Reb Shlomo says that with the whole great story about Abraham Avinu and Achnasat Orchim, how there's all these legends about how he's welcoming the guests into his home, etc., right? But the one story about his Achnasat Orchim, it turns out, is about 3 angels who don't even need to eat, right? And so he says because Abraham Avinu doesn't need the person to be hungry in order to want to give them food. He doesn't need somebody's pain to arouse his compassion. He's just loving and compassionate. Okay? So let's go to page 150. He says, Yiladim kmehim la'ein sof. Children are yearning for the infinite. Sometimes children are angry at their parents because the parents are always, whenever they're talking to them, they're only talking to them about finite things. You need a good profession, and what else? Make a lot of money, right? And so you should have a few cars. But the children are feeling, why aren't you talking to us about that which we really need? Why aren't you talking to us about, telling us something about the infinite one? Why don't you tell us about something that's kadosh, something that's exalted, right? And this is a very, very deep thing. Okay? In other words, Shlomo used to sometimes use the expression of a religious concentration camp. Like a lot of people, when they grow up and they get an education, etc. Unfortunately, the Jewish education that they get is like it's not connected to the source. In other words, it's not like by doing this mitzvah we're connecting with Hashem and so on. It's like, do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that, right? And there's hardly any effort made in helping the kids realize that or how to be really connected with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So and for sure, like if parents are just talking to their kids about everything material, you got to speak to the kids about the material world. Like you don't want your children to grow up and just be totally spiritual, and then they don't even know how to boil an egg, or how to boil water, or like they need. This is, you're living in Olam Hazeh. You need to know how to function. You need to know how to be here, right? But you have to be here, but to be here in a way that is connected, right? Hashem oz lamo yitain, Hashem yivarech et amo ba shalom. right? So Dr. Rebbe explains in the Maimer, what is Bas Shalom? Bet is two, right? So that through Torah, we have Shalom b'famalia Shalmala with the heavenly abode, and b'famalia Shalmata with the worldly abode. And what does that mean, Shalom? So he explains that Shalom is hitkashrut. The whole concept of Shalom is connection, right? Reb Shlomo once put it this way, he said there's war, there's not war, and there's peace. There's Shalom, right? Most people think that peace means that we're not fighting, so we're living in peace. But peace, Shalom is not that we're not just that we're not fighting. Shalom is that we're connected. You are you. You stay you, remain you. I remain me, right? You're different. You're Shammai. I'm Hillel. I'm Shammai. You're Hillel, right? And we have big differences of opinion about what's the truth. We're not interested in I'm going to win this argument or you're going to win this argument. We both want to know the truth. And it turns out that sometimes that the Gemara says Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim, both of them are speaking the words of the living God. Both of them are speaking the real truth. Okay? How could that be? That could be because there's more. There's more than one way of looking at the truth. But as long as both are seeking the truth, both will discover the truth. Okay, and both will, through the argument, each will realize how each one will refine their words and their position to the point that both aspects can be true at the same time. And that's Shalom. In other words, it's connected. Just to have Shalom, to begin with, you have to have two opinions, two sides to the story. If there's only one to begin with, you're not making peace, right? You're not making Shalom. And the word Shalom is Shleimut, means completeness, completion. So children they still remember that they have a neshama. They still remember that they have a neshama. And they feel the yearning of their neshama to be connected to the world of truth. And this is so he says that sometimes parents are talking to the kids about anything and everything except for connection with the world of truth, and the children are upset about that, right? Sometimes you have moments of the infinite between parents and children. If somebody gives you $1 million, you tell, oh, hey, Botar, you love this person, right? But really, it's you love yourself. They did something that made you happy. Sometimes the person shakes your hand, and from that handshake, you love them forever, right? What's the difference? You can't pay your bills with a handshake, but whoever this is shook your hand in such a way that you felt connected to the infinite, right? $1 million The $1 million are finite. And that handshake was hayta ein sofit. It was infinite. Right? How does that sound for a psychology student? Huh? Not scientific enough, right? Prove it, right? I'm the proof.
All psychology is about proving.
No. She's but she's now in the branch of psychology that's trying to be very scientific. Okay. I told you the story that I had with Bibi Netanyahu. Huh? I told you. You know Hanan Elias and Gula, so I did their wedding, and Gula's father was working for Bibi in the government. So Bibi showed up at the wedding in the middle of the chuppah. We actually called him up to make a bracha, but he wouldn't do it. He didn't want to come up there. And the wedding was taking place. You know where Ras Al Amud is. Is that what they call it? There's a Jewish enclave up in Haram Zaitin. There's a little settlement there. So I don't know what it looks like nowadays, but back then, like their hall, for celebrations, it was really basically just a tent. So, there were no solid walls all around. So when he came to the wedding, and this is already it's a while ago, it's over 10 years ago, I believe. Anyway, so when he came to the wedding, they had him sit in the middle of the hall for security reasons. Like, there were tables all around, so for security reasons, since there was no real wall there, And it turned out that they sat down at the table that we were supposed to sit at. So I think it was number 42 even, I don't know. Anyway, so the chuppah was over, and I went and I washed, and I went to sit down at the table. So the security guy says, "What? You can't sit down." He said, "Show him my place card." So he said, "Okay, sit down." And so I'm sitting over here, and Bibi sitting over here. It's a round table, and everybody's coming over, shaking his hand, shaking his hand, shaking his hand, shaking his hand. And I wanted to see, if he still has sensitivity. So, Baruch Hashem, I can give my hand and send energy. I can shake my hand in a way that it is. And he wasn't even looking at all the hands that were coming his way, So I put my hand among those hands, and all of a sudden he turns around and looks at me. He felt it, He said, "Okay, good." So I said that it's not just that he's shaking hands. He had that sensitivity, but that's the reality. We were learning about healing with hands, So Reb Shlomo says, how does that work? It's the love from before creation. Okay. So he says, huh?
Story I remember.
Yeah.
Story, thank you.
So he says, "Morai v'Rabotai, my teachers and my friend, my masters, ככל שאנחנו מתקרבים לימות המשיח, אנחנו יותר רוצים להתעלות מעל עצמנו." The closer that we're getting to Mashiach, the more we want to get out of our skin, the more we want to go higher. אנחנו יותר רוצים להיות אינסופיים. We really want to be much more connected with the infinite. היום העולם יודע, today the world knows, שאם חלק מהגוף כואב, if a part of the body is in pain, so we know now, this is holistic medicine, we know that that's כל הגוף צריך רפואה, that the whole body needs to be healed. Right? It's not that the one part of the body that is having a problem, that's the symptom, right? But העולם נהיה פחות גבולי. In other words, the world has become less confined to limited borders, right? In other words, you realize that if there's something wrong over here, it's somehow connected to another part of the body as well, right? אפשר ללכת עם הרגליים שני רחובות. You can walk 2 blocks on your feet. והרגליים נשארות בגבול, and the feet remain in the gvul, in the border, in the limitation. אבל אפשר ללכת עם הרגליים לעשות טוב למישהו. You can also walk to go and do someone a favor. והרגליים נהיות אין סופיות, and the feet become infinite. This is a documented story. I don't know what year it took place, but I remember that they would bring it in the psychology texts as well, about this elderly woman. She was walking with her son, who was like over 6 feet, and I think it was in Boston area, I'm not sure, but it was reported in the New England Journal of Medicine, and he got knocked over by a car, and he got pinned under the car, And she went ahead and she lifted the car off him, and he was able to get out. Now, the only way that she was able to do that is that at that moment she was infinite. In other words, she connected with the infinite. She didn't think, can I do this? Can I not do this? It doesn't make sense. There's no way I can do this, right? It was like she just knew that she wants to save her son, and she didn't see how much the car weighs, and she didn't see how frail she was. She just saw one thing: I want to save my son, and she went ahead and she did it, right? So in other words, even though we're within our finite selves, we still can connect with something beyond our finite selves. So when it's like, what do you call it? You notice that when you're walking in the street and it's a hot day and you're dragging your feet one foot after the other, and then you go to a wedding and your friend's getting married and you're with all your friends, etc., etc. And all of a sudden, all day long you're dragging along, and all of a sudden you're dancing, and you don't feel heavy and right. So that's like, this the aspect of simcha also. But the point is that you're doing something good, you're doing something special, so then your body goes along with it, because your body also in some way wants to be connected with that. לפעמים ילד חוזר הביתה מבית הספר והוא צריך סנדוויץ', דבר מוגבל, לחם עם חמאה. Sometimes a kid comes home from school, he wants to have a sandwich, some bread and butter. אבל לפעמים הילד צריך סנדוויץ' אינסופי, but sometimes the kid wants some kind of an infinite sandwich. In other words, a sandwich of infinity. לפעמים מספיק חברות מוגבלת, sometimes a limited friendship is enough for you. אבל לפעמים זה מוכרח להיות חברות אינסופית, but sometimes you need your friend to be infinite for you. מתי שיש לך קשר אינסופי עם מישהו, so whenever you have an infinite connection with another person, a connection of an infinite quality, יש לך ברית עם Hashem, so then you are in covenant with God, בבחינת הברית שהייתה לאברהם אבינו עם Hashem, and of the same type of covenant that Avraham Avinu was in with Hashem. Okay? So, when I taught elementary school back in Montreal, and the kids would come in the morning for classes, I could tell on their faces who got breakfast with love, and who got breakfast because the social worker had warned the parents that they have to better be good parents and make sure that your kid gets breakfast before they come to school. You can tell on the kids' faces. You can tell. And yesterday I told the story about the I think it was the Chais of Lublin or the Rebbe Melech of Lezhensk. I think maybe it was Rebbe Melech. Anyway, one day he's walking in the street and he's passing by this poor chassid of his, passing by his house, and he says, I'd love to come into your house. And this chassid is like, wow, never even imagined, never even asked, would you like to come into my house? Who am I? Anyway, so he comes in this little tiny house, and he runs to his wife. He says, the Rebbe's here, make him something, maybe make him some soup. So a few minutes later, she brings out some soup. And the Rebbe is loving the soup so much. When he goes home, he tells his wife, he says, I have this fantastic soup. Can you go find out how she made it? So the Rebbetzin goes to this lady, and she says, my husband really liked the soup. Can you tell me what was in it? And she sort of very bashfully says, I'll tell you the truth. It was just boiled water. Because we're so poor, I didn't have anything that I could put in it. So I said, Rebbeinu Shalom, You have all the spices of the Garden of Eden. So I can't do any more than I'm doing. But you can add all the spices and the flavors to it and make it delicious. So it was her prayers that brought it down. Understand?
One
Now,
of my favorite stories.
yeah.
We always heard it though, where they always told his son about the little thing that served him the soup, and his son went to find it. And then he said to the Balabai, Happy Village, he said, a long time ago, a tzaddik came in and the room was filled with light. And the same thing happened when you came in, and then she told him the same thing. So,
All these stories have more than one version usually. Right? But the point of the story is the same in all of them, right?
yeah, particularly
And I saw that happen here in the house. I mentioned this yesterday. I have a friend in Saratoga, New York. He's a Reform rabbi, and he's a really good guy. And he loves to bake. And he actually started a project there where he got a grant and set up like a big baking oven. And he goes once a week and he gathers the homeless people and teaches them how to make bread. And then they have time to spend together. And then while the bread is baking and so on. So he was here for Shabbos, a Friday night. We made Kiddush and we went and washed. And Judy bakes challah. She took on the mitzvah of baking challah every week, so she can do the mitzvah of chashat challah. And she, we made him, we come back in. I cut the challah, and he takes to buy the challah, and he didn't even swallow it yet. He runs to the kitchen. Judy, what's in this challah? And she says, prayers. And he says, I'm not joking. And she says, I'm not joking.
neither am I.
Because she actually has a whole that she learned this whole thing basically is like 10 ingredients and so on, like 10 different things, and each one represents something else. And while you're doing the dough, etc., you're doing these tefillot or these kavanot, Anyway, so people want to be connected with the infinite. Children want to be connected with the infinite, and for those who are who want to be like scientific all the time, Reb Shlomo is giving a very physical example. You can see that even in medicine and in other fields of science, there's a much greater awareness of the infinite and so on. So, page 151. Miha'ayin yavo ezri. From the ayin, right? So the regular translation is from where will my help come? Right? So you see now, miha'ayin, from the no thing, that's where my help will come. Havrit שהייתה לאברהם אבינו עם Hashem, the covenant that Abraham Avinu had with God, הייתה אין סופית. It was an infinite covenant. In other words, Brit im Hashem, to be in covenant with God, משמעותה, what it means is להיות לגמרי מסור ונתון להקדוש ברוך הוא. It means, to be in covenant means that you're giving yourself over completely to the Holy One, blessed be He. ולעבוד אותו ממש בכל רגע and to serve God at every moment. Okay? In other words, let's say I say, okay, I'm going to be your partner in business, right? So I'm not giving myself over. I'm not giving you my kishkis. I'm not giving you my every aspect of my being. I'm your business partner. That's where it begins and that's where it ends, right? To be in covenant, right, means that for example, a marriage is considered to be like a brit, right? Matan Torah is a brit, and so to be in covenant means to to give yourself over completely, right? Lifnei habrit, before the covenant, Avraham Avinu haya ma'achil aniyim v'noten lahem makom lishon. Avraham Avinu was feeding the poor, giving them a place to sleep. Achrei habrit, after the covenant, Avraham Avinu yada she'im ein lamishu bayit hu tzarich hakol. He knew that if somebody doesn't have a house, he knew that he needs everything. כי מתי שאין כלום, יש כלים לקבל הכל. So he's going in the following direction. He says, when there's nothing, when you have nothing, you have the vessels to receive everything. מתי שמישהו קצת חולה, when somebody is just a little bit sick, מתי שדברים לא הולכים כל כך טוב בחיים, or when things are not going so great in life. When things are not doing so great in life, right? חס ושלום. באותו רגע יש כלים לקבל הכל. Then you have vessels to receive everything. Okay? אלפיים שנה היינו בגלות, והשם לא נתן לנו את ארץ ישראל. 2,000 years we were in exile and God didn't give us back Israel. כשהלכנו לתאי גזים, and we walked into the gas chambers, ממש לא היה לנו כלום. So then we had nothing. לא נשאר כלום, nothing was left. ברגע זו, היו לנו כלים לקבל את ארץ ישראל. And at that moment, we had the vessels to receive Israel. In other words, plain and simple, I got this cup is half full with water, right? So, can you give me everything? No, because it's not really empty, right? In order to be able to receive everything, to be open to receiving everything, right? There has to be a state of nothingness. Now, for example, the Kosker Rebbe said, that there's nothing more whole than a broken heart, right? Because when the heart is broken, then it's open to receiving. Somebody that doesn't have a broken heart is not open to receiving, right? So, what he's saying about Avraham Avinu is that as a result of entering into the covenant with Hashem, his understanding of what a person needs went so much deeper. Before, it just may have thought that it was just, you're hungry, here's some food, right? But like Reb Shlomo used to say, when somebody stops in the street and says, what time is it? You think they don't know how to find out the time? Right? What they're saying is, my life is running by and I don't know if I'm doing what I need to be doing. Somebody stops you in the street and says, how do you get to such and such a place? You think they can't find out on their own how to find that place? What they're saying is, I'm so lost, can you help me? Right? In other words, you in a certain way, what he's saying is take advantage of the opportunity. When a person needs something, they're open to receiving everything. and give them what they need. He says, "Anachnu l'tzarenu," we, much to our distress, עדיין חושבים שיש לנו משהו. We still think that we're in possession of something. אנחנו חושבים שיש את אמריקה. We think, oh, we still have America. אנחנו חושבים שיש לנו את התרבות הערבית. We think that we acquired Western civilization. Sorry guys, the heat's getting me today, like crazy. So he says, we think that we have America. We think that we have Western culture. ברגע שנדע שאין לנו כלום, but at the moment that we're going to know that we don't have anything, ברגע שנדע שיש לנו רק את השם יתברך, when we realize that all we've got is God, באותו הרגע יהיו לנו כלים לקבל את הכל. Then we'll have the vessels to receive everything, right? You know the story, this guy is driving to Manhattan, and he's looking for a parking spot, and he says, God, if you make it easy for me to get a parking spot, if you find me a parking spot, I'm giving $20 to charity. And right as he finishes saying that, the car pulls out, and he's got a parking spot. He says, oh, God, forget it, I managed on my own. I managed on my own. Understand, there's a teaching from the Ishbitzer that says like this, that he says if the heavens gates are closed, if you're praying for something and it's decided in heaven you're not getting it, you could pray as much as you want, you're not going to get it, right? But sometimes you feel inspired to pray. And when you're feeling inspired to pray, what that's about is that Shemayim is waiting to give you this thing, but all that's missing is the prayer. Okay. When we first came to Israel, so I came and I was doing this program for teachers in Bar Ilan. And for a year, but when your program, and the deal was that you had to commit yourself to going back to Chutz La'aretz for at least another 3 years to continue teaching there. So Julie basically decided that that's it, she's not going back. And she went and negotiated with them that I'd go back for just 1 year and I'd be able to stay here. So that year, like, I left at the end of summer to go to Montreal. Then I came here for Sukkot, and then I went back, and then I came during the Hanukkah break, and I went back, then I came for Pesach, and went back, and then at the end of summer came and stayed. Now, when the winter break was taking place, Hanukkah winter break was taking place, Pesach was coming, and there were basically two options. One was to fly with El Al, because at that time, Air Canada wasn't yet flying to Israel. So one of them was to fly with El Al, and the other one was to fly with KLM. And the difference was that with El Al, I would be able to stay to the end of the semester, but I would come back 2 days late after Pesach. With KLM, I would have to leave 2 days before, and I would be back on time for when classes began after Pesach. So I asked my teacher, what do you prefer? So she said she prefers that I'm back on time when things start. Okay, makes sense. So that meant I had to go with KLM. So I called up my travel agent about 3 months before Pesach. And I said, okay, make me a reservation. So he calls me back, he says, I got you a seat from Montreal to Amsterdam, from Amsterdam to Tel Aviv, from Amsterdam to Montreal, but Tel Aviv, Amsterdam, that night is completely booked. They don't have a seat for you yet. But it's another 12 weeks till Pesach, so we have time, so we'll see how it goes. It's now 10 weeks before Pesach, the seat didn't open up. It's 8 weeks, the seat's not opened up. It's 6 weeks, it's 4 weeks, 3 weeks, the seat hasn't opened up. And then it's already 2 weeks before Pesach. And there's no seat. And it's already too late. You can't get a ticket on the Allow either. Because I was already completely booked by now. So I'm sitting one night at my desk at my mother's house. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And it's now 10 days before Pesach. And I'm thinking to myself, that means that I might not be with my children for Pesach here in Israel. So I said, Rebbeinu Shalom, I said, maybe I don't have the merit to be in Eretz Yisrael for Pesach, but why should my children have to be disabled without their father? And for the sake of my children. And less than 60 seconds later, the phone rang. And I already knew. It's my travel agent. 10 o'clock at night. Shalom, sorry for calling you so late at night. I got to tell you, you got a seat. So you say, what? Okay, what happened? And this guy, Shlomo Besser, he was involved in a lot of things, and he was actually going to a meeting, and he had to stop by the office and get some papers. So he went up to his office, got the papers that he needed, and he already put his coat back on, put on his winter boots. He locked the door and took 2 steps down, and then he says, you know what? Let me check the computer, see if anything opened up so I can get Shalom a ticket. He goes back in the office, turns on the computer, and they didn't turn on as fast then as they do today, right? Turns on the computer and gets the KLM screen, and right in front of his eyes, a seat opened up, and he grabbed it. Okay? So, what happened? It's not that I prayed, and then Hashem says, okay, he's praying now, and you know what? And Hashem goes and wakes up the travel agent, Shlomo, get up, go to the office, Everything was basically ready. Everything was basically ready. There was only one thing missing, and that was my prayer. Understand? So sometimes you have such situations where everything is ready, everything is there for you, right? But you're not open to it, right? So sometimes you got to get to the point where, like, all of a sudden, like, you realize, Gewalt, I have nothing, right? I have nothing. I didn't have a ticket neither with KLM nor with El Al, and I realized, like, I got nothing. How am I going to make it for Pesach? And you got nothing. Now you can have everything, Yeah.
I'm going to tell some close story where he eats everything in the guy's house.
Yeah, right. Good story, too. Tell it.
So he goes with his facility. He needs to spend time with Shabbos, and the person's got like really nothing. He's got like a little house and just enough food to feed them, and a cow. And so he says, I'm starved. You got to cook a tremendous Suda for us. And so he eats, and he says, Shabbos ends, and he says, I need more food. And there's no to do. He goes out, and his mamish needs to slaughter the cows, who feeds them all the meat that he has, and he says, I'm still hungry, I need more. And the person goes out, and the mamish sells his house to get money, to get more things. And the person's got no cow, which was his complete income. He's got no house. He's got nothing now, And Hashem tells Chassid, looking at him, what's happened to our master? He's turned into an animal. The person's got nothing. He's eaten every single thing on the table, every morsel of food, killed the cow, sold the house, and they drive off and they won't talk to him the whole way. In the meantime, the person goes out into the woods afterwards, and it's like putting his hands up, God, I mamish need help. And all of a sudden, Ivan, the drunkard, comes walking by, and he sees him, and he says, Uncle, I want you to know You've really been my only friend here. Every time I come, you take care of me. He says, I want you to know I look like a drunkard, but I'm a very rich man. I want you to know that I keep my treasure. I'm going to show you where I keep it. And he shows him the treasure, and sure enough, like that night, it's heard that Yankel, that the drunkard had passed away. And sure enough, he goes and takes the treasure out, and he uses the money. He builds his house. He starts a beautiful business, and he gives a lot of tzedakah. And he pulls up to the Baal Shem Tov. Says the wife says, something, you ought to go and tell the Baal Shem Tov, because it seems like after that happened, the luck changed, even though it didn't look right. He pulls up to the Baal Shem Tov's house with horses this time, the wagon. He's dressed nice. His kids are dressed nice. And all of a sudden, the Hasidim who were exactly there happened to be sitting in the chamber when he comes, a year later. And he tells him the story of the Hasidim and they're just shaking their head thinking, how could we have ever doubted our master, He's always been right, but this one time. So it was the same thing with this person. The Baal Shem Tov said to him, you needed to know that there was a treasure waiting for you in Shemayim, but you never asked for it. But you had to get to the place.
I had to take everything away from you so that you should ask for it.
I had to give you complete nothing, emptiness. So you had to connect to that infinite and bring it down.
As long as you thought that you still owned something and that you didn't ask Hashem. Right? Okay. So, yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying that that's to be an eye in your Ezri, right? So he says, like for example, people that come here, let's say from America, right? They think that they have America, right? They're the ones that have the hardest time in Klita. They're the ones that have the hardest time adjusting over here because they, in the back of their mind they have this thing about I can always go back to America, So, אנחנו חושבים שיש לנו את התרבות המערבית. We think that we've got this Western culture. What do I need, religion for? ברגע שנדע שאין לנו כלום, ברגע שנדע שיש לנו רק את השם יתברך, באותו הרגע יהיו לנו כלים לקבל את הכל. The moment we realize that we don't have anything, that all we've got is God, then you'll have the vessels to receive everything. אני לא רוצה את שבת קודש בצורה מזערית. I don't want Shabbos in a minimalist way. אני רוצה שיום שכולו שבת. I want to see the day when it's all Shabbos. אני רוצה את כל השבת. I want all of Shabbat. Right? You ever see people like Shabbos afternoon, another 2 hours, so as if it's a fast day, when's the fast going to be over? When am I going to get back? When am I going to be able to turn on my iPhone again? When can I get back on Facebook, right? אנחנו לא צריכים חברים רק בשביל לומר שלום. We don't need friends just to say hello to them. אנחנו צריכים חברים אינסופיים. We need infinite friends. ברוך השם, thank God, השם פותח לנו שערים, God is opening up gates for us, שאנחנו יכולים להתעלות מעל עצמנו. Hashem is giving us opportunities to rise above ourselves. So, I don't know if you were here the other day when we read this one particular thing. He says, you want to experience infinite within the finite? He says, the next time you see a poor person, give him everything you own. Right? Be infinite, right? Right? Or he says, where is it? Yeah. He says, the next time that you're davening, don't look at the clock. Just don't look at the clock. Just daven. Be there. And you'll experience the infinite. So I said today in the Sefer, in the Ma'or B'Shemesh, It's a great title of the Sefer, you know. Og B'Shemesh.
He's a student of Rabbi Melech?
I think so.
Yeah.
And he says that how can you experience the infinite here in this finite world? Right? So he says that it has very, very much to do with committing yourself to connecting with God, right? And furthermore, not stopping to yearn for that connection. In other words, like total yearning for that connection. And the more that you yearn for it, the more you're going to experience it, and the more you're going to experience it, the less your body is going to have a hold on you, and your body will not hold you back. Right. Once Reb Shlomo said, "How do you know if you davened?" So he says, when you finish davening, if you want to daven again. So it was a Shabbos morning on the Moshav, and I was like particularly late, and Shlomo finally finished most of like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon. And I was just still davening Shabbos, and I went over to him and I said, "Would you like to daven again?" So he just smiled. He could have said, "Now we're going to go be infinite with the meal." But, but that's, so this is questions. What are you attached to? Once Reb Shlomo said like this, he said, you know this, you know about subliminal, what's it called? Subliminal messages or subliminal advertising. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. So what some restaurants do is they'll pipe the fragrance of what they're cooking into the street. So that when you walk by, you say, Mac attack. They don't know. You heard about Mac attacks? Like, McDonald's used to have this whole advertising campaign of people they're like normal people. All of a sudden, they're walking in the street and they're having this attack. I gotta have a burger, a hamburger. Anyway, it's a Mac attack, and so he says that because you're walking on 6th Avenue in New York, Manhattan, and you've got this attack. Like you walk by this pizzeria, and it's like it smells like the greatest pizza in the world, and you just feel like, how could I not have it? So he says, now imagine yourself being up on top of the Empire State Building, and now you're looking down at that same pizzeria. How big is it now? Not very big, right? In other words, raise yourself to a higher level of consciousness, right? Just raise yourself to a higher level of consciousness. You feel you're angry at somebody. You feel like saying something negative to them, and so on. Raise yourself to the place where you're one, right? That you don't feel the need to say anything negative, right? Okay. So you have a good Shabbat. Are you around on Shabbat? No? Also not? We're going to be here, Mr. Shabbat. So we have to rush the sheets.
You said 6:30 is Pirkei Avot?
6, no. Pirkei Avot is 5 to 6.
5 to 6.
Right?
7:30 is...
The Sudash sheet is going to be at 7:30.
Great learning with you this week. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Great.